Folks, that's ludicrous. It's wrong. It's absurd. It's appalling. I can't use enough adjectives to say how furious I was. We defended the young man and got him acquitted. What a blessing. But I can tell you, I was still furious.
You mean that they never came back and took
No,
the case?
no, no.
Wow. Welcome to episode 34 of the Frugal Firearms Podcast, the podcast that is going to reveal things to you that maybe you didn't think about or didn't know about and maybe need consideration. So today's topic is going to be something that actually we visited the first time about 16 months ago. And you think, why are they repeating the same topic? Well, heck, guys, there are podcasts out there that are dedicated to single weapon platforms, and they talk about that single weapon platform every single episode. So this is not exactly us being redundant. This is us bringing you content that we think you need to hear. And today we're going to have a different perspective than we did 16 months ago. But first off, of course, bring on my co-host, Ken. Ken, good morning. We're doing a morning session today in this recording.
Indeed. Yeah. That's the advantage of being retired now. We can actually do that whenever we want to.
Yeah, you're retired, not so much me. My part-time job has me with a 40-hour overtime authorization for next week.
And you'll be putting on like 20,000 miles of flight times or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah. It's going to be a long trip. It's going to be Hawaii, Guam, and Japan. So I'll be gone for a while. So
yes.
Wow.
Ken, tell us what we're doing here.
Okay, well, today we have Frank Cannon, who is the president of Right to Bear. If you are a CCW carrier, if you carry a firearm, this is definitely something you need to consider. It's extremely important that you cover yourself with some sort of insurance, that you have some financial protection, because otherwise everything you own could go away, even if you are right.
Well, but Ken, so Frank has he's the president of Right to Bear. He is not himself an attorney, even though he is the president. And Ken, are you an attorney?
No, nor do I play one on TV. And basically, what you're going to hear from us is our opinions. And Frank, your opinions as well are going to come here. These are data points, but they should be considered, particularly the importance of this particular subject. They need to be considered seriously, and highly recommend anybody who carries a firearm for their self-protection or protection of their family that they have some sort of financial protection.
So, Frank, welcome to the show, and kind of give us the history of not just Right to Bear, but what distinguishes Right to Bear from other similar companies in the same space, and then how you became involved in it, and what your association is. So, welcome to the show, Mr. Frank Cannon.
Craig and Ken, thank you for your time and just the opportunity to share our heart and our vision with you this morning. I am grateful. I am one of the founding partners of Right to Bear. We actually came out of the gate about 5 years ago, and we are very blessed to be the fastest growing self-defense legal protection membership organization in the country. We provide legal defense support, attorney access, and educational resources for responsible gun owners. But we have some very unique features about our company that separates us from some of our very great competitors. And when I say great competitors, if you've heard any podcasts that I've done or interviews over the past 4.5 years, you'll know that we have enormous admiration for those who paved the way in this space for us to allow to be a part of it. And we believe that we established a culture and some protections that make us elite. We just believe we do it better. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit in a moment. But when we came out of the gate, we had a couple of significant goals in mind, my partner and I. One, we wanted to be the most value-centered legal protection membership organization in America, and I believe we've achieved that. And one way we've done that is We cover any means of self-defense necessary. Ken, I heard you mention earlier eloquently that if you've got a firearm, you want to make absolutely certain that you have some type of CCW protection, and I agree with that. Obviously, I'm a 38-year veteran of the insurance business, having owned a couple of agencies and sold them to national firms before I founded Right to Bear with my partner. One of the things that we do is we cover any means of self-defense necessary. So hands and feet, for example, is a big issue out there right now. If you've got a situation where you have a family plan with Right to Bear and your kid's getting bullied, and all of a sudden he takes charge and decides to fight back because he feels he's in a self-defense posture, and all of a sudden he finds himself charged with a crime, we're going to defend him. And a lot of our competitors won't touch that. I'll give you another example. In the insurance world, a vehicle cannot be involved in an intentional act. Well, Ken and Craig, if a mother is traveling through an inner city in Baltimore and the next thing you know, they're getting carjacked, the worst thing they can do is exit the vehicle. Nothing good ever happens when they exit a vehicle. So if they've got to use that vehicle to get away, we're going to defend them. Most of our competitors have to say that it's an intentional act. We follow insurance litigation law and language, and therefore we're not going to cover that. But at Right to Bear, we say any means of self-defense necessary. I think you'll find this comical, but we've actually had a claim with a bag of avocados. Pretty cool. Yeah. And you could say they made guacamole. That didn't quite happen, but I can tell you it was a domestic dispute that we actually defended and got an acquittal. So what a blessing. But we believe that we offer the most comprehensive value because we say any means of self-defense necessary, and that makes us the best value. Our second goal was to be the most cost effective. And if you look at our pricing right now compared to the national market, I think you'll find that for $200, a little over $200 a year, you get incredible value compared to the competition, which one in particular can be as much as triple our cost annually. Mm-hmm. So we feel very strongly about that. And then finally, we have a series of attorneys around the country that have been vetted, are true Second Amendment attorneys. And when our members are involved in a tough situation with a self-defense incident, when they call our hotline, they get a live Second Amendment attorney that answers the call, even at 2 a.m. on Christmas morning or 3 p.m. on 4th of July. We don't have call centers or dispatch services. We place great emphasis on making certain that our members understand that client-attorney privilege is of the utmost importance during serious matters like that. And so we place great emphasis on that. So thank you for letting me share. Again, we're about value, we're about cost effectiveness, and we're about service. And I'll talk a little bit about that service here in a little bit as we get through our segment today.
I guess the resistance point of, and you kind of brought up something I hadn't considered for when we were planning the show. I think the resistance point to most people, well, let me just ask you a question to see if you know the statistics, because I don't. What percentage of CCW, I don't even know, do I even want to limit it to CCW carriers? Because the audience is largely gun owners. Let's kind of focus on that, because I think we're going to make the topic so broad. Otherwise, like if you just said all citizens, it's going to become, the number is going to be incredibly small. But what percentage of gun owners have some sort of legal protection set up ahead of time? And that would be across the industry, across, the ones that advertise all the time that you constantly see banners up, and they're obviously spending a lot on marketing, and then companies like yours that I think maybe focus more on the product and less on the advertising of the product. What kind of number is that?
Well, that's a great question, Craig. And let me give you just some big oversight if I can. We know in the country that the government admits right now that there are arguably somewhere around 200 million households with firearms. Mm-hmm. I personally believe that's probably closer to 300 million. That's just Frank Cannon's personal belief. But as of today, those that carry some kind of legal defense protection in the country would be somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million individuals in the country. So we've got a lot of room to educate and grow in our space because people truly need to understand there's a real need out there. And we're obviously going to go into some questions about claims and some of the experiences that I've personally been involved in. And when we go through those, I think you're going to find it quite shocking what's happening in America because the days of old where there was true judicial prudence and judiciaries that looked at things from a law-abiding citizen are now more in the activist phase, especially in certain places around the country. So it places an even greater need to have some form of protection for not only the individual and his legal protection, but also asset protection. And we'll talk about that a little bit later also.
Is it your opinion then? So you cited a number that even the high number might be 1%. So if
Yes.
we compared that, now I don't want to get into a privilege versus a right because driving is considered more, I think, a legal privilege. Therefore, they can require that you have insurance. But the number of people who carry automotive insurance, is very, very a high percentage. I mean, I don't know how close it is to 100. I know it's not 100%, but it's really high. Now, what would you then jumping down to another idea here? Let's just say that you're involved in a self-defense scenario ranging between a bag of avocados and a firearm, somewhere in that range. What is the probability that you will be hauled into court, either civilly or criminally, or both?
Yeah, that's also a great question, Craig. And I will tell you right now that a lot of that outcome depends on the region, state, municipality, county that you're involved in and where you live and where you reside. I want to give you a perfect example of my response to you right now from your question. 3 weeks ago, one of our dear members, a mother who had purchased one of our policies about 8 months ago, was FaceTiming her daughter. She couldn't reach her and kept calling her on cell phone. Finally, the daughter answers, and the daughter is getting physically and brutally beaten by the boyfriend. And it's traumatic. Mother hangs the phone up, grabs her firearm, runs to the daughter's house to rescue her, knocks on the door. Boyfriend comes to the door. She immediately says, "I want my daughter out of here," and shows her firearm on her hip, never pulls it. So daughter runs to the front door. Mother and daughter are about to leave. Boyfriend calls 911, tells 911 that mother has threatened him with a firearm. Guess who was charged, folks?
Oh, of course, the mom.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're defending the mom now from just a monster who felt the need to defend a daughter that was beaten brutally, folks. And so I can give you case after case right now where, depending on the state, depending on the county, depending on the area, where it just simply depends on whether we've got a DA that's a true, person of the law or an activist. And we've got a lot of activists out there right now, folks. It's shameful to say, but that's the truth.
You're going to have a lot better than 1% chance of ending up in court. And then what happens to those people who show up in court who, because they didn't think about this ahead of time? And I'm assuming that, you're not going to accept a membership request after the incident. I mean, I would imagine that's
correct.
That's the true all the way across the industry. What's going to happen to these people who don't have this set up in advance? Like, what's the probability of success of defense? What's the probability that they're going to go broke? Those sort of things.
Yeah. Craig, the tough part about that is that a large part of the population right now that are involved in self-defense incidents and yet are charged for standing their ground, literally have to end up with a public defender because they can't afford the actual retainer for a lot of the really good pro Second Amendment attorneys right now that may charge up to $25,000 down just to take the case. And depending on the area that they're involved in, there's a significant difference in reasonable and customary charges in Hollywood, California versus Gurdon, Arkansas. So if I've got an attorney in Hollywood, you may see that retainer at 50 grand down just to take the case. So it's alarming. We talk, and I know that time is of the essence here, but we talk about the politicization and what people end up seeing. We just defended our largest case. And thank God we came out on the successful side. But we have a well-documented case where we defended one of our great members in the state of Maryland. And this particular member was on video, had camera rolling, and was defending an inner city McDonald's in the state of Maryland. And that situation was entirely documented where the member had a vagrant come into the McDonald's, actually was literally bugging some of the guests. Our member was acting in the capacity of an armed security guard, actually asked the person to leave 4 different times. In that transaction, it became a hostile environment. The intruder decided to actually begin a physical, attack on our member. He used pepper spray a number of times to fend him off. It didn't work. He pulled out a baton, tried to use that. It didn't work. And finally, there's pretty physical action going on camera, and he's doing his best to try and fend the vagrant off as that individual's reaching for his firearm. And it became a matter after 3.5 minutes where something had to transpire. And unfortunately, there was, a discharge of the firearm at that time. And it became a terrible incident, but a clear-cut case in our view and our legal team's view of self-defense. Our member was charged with murder.
Now, was that a case of affirmative self-defense? I mean, maybe you should define what affirmative self-defense means for people, because I think that that's not necessarily understood because, well, I'll let you explain it.
Well, if you look at the definition, Craig and Ken, of affirmative self-defense, I mean, self-defense and affirmative self-defense are basically the same exact thing. It's where you believe that you have the right to stand your ground and that you feel threatened in some way to defend your life. We all talk about probably the largest case that was won in the country in the past 5 years, and that would be the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And we use that as an example of affirmative defense because at first people had Kyle hung out to basically dry, as we all can agree to, because they felt like he was in a place that he shouldn't have been with a firearm. And the truth is he was, but he felt like he had a right, Second Amendment right, which he did, to carry. And he felt like he was defending others' property. And then he was personally attacked and felt like he needed to defend his life. Well, finally, the actual truth came out, the facts came out, the evidence came out, and we found, that Kyle is a free man today because of that affirmative defense. So.
And you talk about activists, not only judges, but I mean these activists, attorneys, attorney generals, or whatever, who are out there doing that. There are a lot of them who do not like firearms, do not like people who carry firearms, do not like people who defend themselves. They're looking for sheep, and you should always be sheep, and you're always backing off. And there are times when you just can't do that. I'm constantly astounded. I watch. For example, Washington Gun Law with your close friend William Kirk and his channel on YouTube, for example. They're constantly talking about these attorney generals in these various states that are they don't even care what the Constitution says or what the Supreme Court says. They're just going to go out there and do whatever they want to do they don't care. They know better than you, and they're just going to do whatever they want to do. So you think you have the law on your side because it's just so obvious and clear.
Ken, I appreciate that thought. And I want to add to it, if I might, for just a second. We're not just seeing that kind of politicization in the judiciary. We're also seeing it in our municipalities and union representation. So let me give you an example. Right to Bear extends coverage to our heroes in blue. Now they're well protected through their different union organizations, and they also, for the most part, have a legal defense fund in the municipalities in which they work for most cases. But we've had a number of cases already where our heroes in blue have joined Right to Bear just for the security because they didn't feel confident in what was transpiring in their region. So had a case in Michigan just last year where one of our heroes in blue was wrongfully charged with police brutality. The first thing he did was reach out to his legal defense fund, and he also notified his union. Both of those organizations literally denied him counsel in a wait and see approach because his case had already gone to the press and there was a politicization being made in the press that they didn't want to be a part of. Well, I'm a very passionate individual. I got on the phone with the union president and I got on the phone with the president of the Legal Defense Fund and I said, hey guys, this is a dues paying hero that puts his life on the line 24/7. He needs you right now. And you're not offering protection when he needs you. It was as if they gave me the exact canned answer. Mr. Cannon, we really can't discuss it, but because it's political in nature, we are going to take a wait and see approach on counsel. So basically, this hero in blue is left out to dry. He's hung out to dry. It's either he has a right to bear or one of our competitors, or he's got to hire his own defense counsel until they decide he's worthy of protection. Folks, that's ludicrous. It's wrong. It's absurd. It's appalling. I can't use enough adjectives to say how furious I was. We defended the young man and got him acquitted. What a blessing. But I can tell you, I was still furious.
You mean that they never came back and took the case?
No.
Wow.
And these are the kinds of things that are happening every day in America today. It's crazy.
And if you have no one standing behind you, that can ruin an entire life's savings.
Easily. Yeah.
Listen, we've certainly seen cases. We talked earlier about Kyle Rittenhouse, and obviously that was a 7-figure case easily. So again, it depends on the nature of the case.
Is your average person who's involved in some sort of self-protection incident, irrespective of the methodology, are they surprised when the police show up and then decide to arrest them? Just because the police haven't maybe sorted everything out, but they know that there's a dead guy or an injured guy on the ground, and you're standing there, and you either called 911 or someone called on your behalf, and you're the one holding the weapon. Are they surprised? Like, hey, I was right. I didn't need to go to jail, and then they get hooked up, and maybe not for long, but our people don't expect that, right? A lot of people don't.
Guys, I could spend a whole day talking about cases we've defended where our member was completely shocked. I'm talking about in total shock when literally there were charges brought, they were handcuffed and taken to jail because they chose to stand their ground and defend their life. It'll surprise you.
So these same people are the ones who are then thumbing through the virtual yellow pages trying to go, who do I call? And maybe they pick the big shiny ad or something like that. And now you're dealing with a person who is not a firearms specific, it doesn't have firearms specific expertise, maybe is not that well experienced, probably does a lot of case law where cases are pled, maybe is more of an expert in, let's say, traffic injury type cases. Because there's a uniqueness to like in medical fields where you go to a specialist and not a general practitioner, you do want someone who's experienced in this area, right? I mean, you can explain why.
Self-defense law. No, absolutely. And also, I know a lot of people don't, if they're not really plugged into the legal how our legal system works. There's the criminal component of it where you be charged criminally with something. And then you may win the criminal. You may say, no, there was no crime committed. And then you can be sued civilly by the family or whatever it might be. And I know when I was taking my recent CCW class for renewal, they basically came up and said, yeah, there was somebody who broke in, threatened a life. There was a self-defense firearms utilization. The perpetrator died, so and it was pretty. They went to court and they won. There was not a problem, and it was considered a good shoot. And then the guy he gets off criminally, not a problem there, and he's then sued civilly by the family who said, you've now denied us all of the earning potential of this criminal over his lifetime. And he lost in civil court. And he had the guy had to come up and pay a large sum of money to make up for the lost wages of this criminal who had tried to kill him. Astounding. But this type of thing happens in our legal system. So there's a criminal side and a civil side. Civil side almost always happens after the criminal side, at least in a self-defense type shooting. And then you have to understand that you can still be financially put at great risk. So this is why we need an organization standing behind you to help you financially.
It's interesting, Ken, that you bring up that point. We actually have roughly 24 states in the United States that have clear-cut laws on the books that offer complete civil immunity for self-defense. In other words, if you are involved in a true self-defense incident where you believed that your life was threatened and that self-defense judgment is awarded, you cannot be charged civilly. A lot of folks aren't aware that civil litigation cannot be brought in those 24 states, which is a blessing. In doing our research, when we founded Right to Bear, we presently offer civil defense protection unlimited. What we don't offer is civil judgment. We could not
Sure.
find a reason at the time to offer civil judgment coverage because we felt like we were charging a premium for something we'd never pay. We have since, though, had quite a number of folks say, hey, I really want some civil judgment protection for certain states that don't offer that immunity. So we're in the process of hopefully rolling out an endorsement to offer civil damages protection within the next 90 days for those who will choose to take it. But I would, challenge both of you to realize, should we charge should we charge for that protection in those 24 states that offer a clear-cut immunity process? We battle with that from the heart, and so that's something we're going to spend a lot of time praying about. So.
I think if you just simply, put a big obvious note and says, if you're in these states, whatever those states are, maybe you don't need this, but if you want it, it's available.
That's
because,
fair.
well, I mean, this goes to the point that we had talked about earlier, which is how many companies, and I don't really even know how this is worked out between companies. I think that there might be some people who are, I wouldn't say paranoid because that has a negative connotation, who are so concerned about, let's say, well, you brought it up originally. You said that, you guys offer value, but I wonder if people can construe value as, I don't want the cheapest guy. I want the more expensive guy because I interpret that the service must be better because it's more expensive. Well, if you kind of extrapolate that, what if people have multiple companies that they've signed up with, and how do then you work with the other company to figure out, well, you've got this part, I've got that part, you're the primary and I'm the secondary? I mean,
Yeah, obviously, we're happy to protect you if you were to buy a membership with Right to Bear and you already have another one of our great competitors. It depends on where you signed up first as to who is primary. And so the primary carrier is going to be the one you had coverage with first, and secondary is us. Craig, I think it's important that you hear this though, and regarding the civil damages coverage, and I think you'll find this somewhat shocking. We did extensive research, hired attorneys to look into this very carefully to find true self-defense cases where there was civil damages awarded in the United States of America. I would like to ask both of you as a challenge how many cases where there was a civil damage award from a true self-defense incident. Do you guys want to give me a number nationally?
I wouldn't even know where to begin. I'm not sure.
I'll give you a number: zero.
Zero. So I want to go back to that comment I made out of the gate about why we didn't offer civil damages out of the gate, because we
Hadn't happened. Okay.
we couldn't find case precedents for it. So, we're a faith-based organization, guys. We don't hide it. And I just couldn't, at the time, justify charging for something that's never happened, or at least we can't find it.
Yeah, well, that's value right there. I mean,
I believe it is.
kind of the
I believe it is,
definition of
Craig.
value, right? It's not.
We're going to speak
charging.
the truth. We're going to
Yeah.
speak the truth. So.
Right. What states are you available in, and or are maybe the short list is which ones are you not available in? Because I think that there are states that, for some convoluted reason, don't allow coverage such as yours.
Yeah, we're currently not operating in New York. Obviously, that's probably the one state that we'll never operate in. Our competitors don't really operate in that state successfully either, just because they don't view our protection as valued for the consumer. New Jersey is quite a difficult, environment also, but we believe that at some point we can enter that state. It may be some time. We have applied. We are licensed and registered in Washington State. We hope to roll out that program within 60 to 90 days. So the only states that we will not operate in by fall of this year will be New York and New Jersey.
And kind of along those lines, what if an incident happens while you're doing a travel?
Yes,
You're
great question.
You're traveling
Yeah.
across the New York, New Jersey, or whatever.
Yeah, we have multi-state coverage that you can endorse onto your policy at Right to Bear, which our competitors do also. So as long as you reside, for example, in Pennsylvania, if you have an incident in New Jersey, we're going to defend you. We just can't sell actual membership to our association for those who reside in the state of New York and New Jersey.
So, Frank, what are the differences between different kinds of legal self-defense organizations? I mean, I think that we throw around the term insurance a lot, but really technically it's not insurance, right? Because we're essentially buying into a collective, because I think my understanding is you cannot insure against a crime if it heads that direction. And is that the reason, by the way, that if someone pled to a lower charge just to get out of the case, that now they are de facto guilty of a crime, therefore the insurance wouldn't pay off, and then a recoupment clause kicks in?
Yeah, you make up some good points there, Craig, and there is a significant difference between our great competitors who operate in the insurance world and Right to Bear. We are an association providing a robust set of benefits, and one is, again, legal defense. Here's the complication, guys, and this is probably more than you want to know, but I'm going to be as transparent as I told you I would be. About half the states in the country view our product as prepaid legal. The other half can't find that actual space for us, so they deem it insurance. And a lot of it's to collect the tax dollars because they really don't want to provide oversight. But God bless them. We have a fronting carrier that protects the association against any unforeseen revenue damage that we might experience from a large scale. But that's the only thing they do. We make all decisions on claims between my partner, myself, and our chief legal counsel. We don't have an insurance company that makes decisions, unlike our competitors who literally, we've heard members literally call us and scream saying, I just got a call from, a competitor I'm with, and the insurance company said, I am denying this claim. And they said, well, wait a minute. My agent, the guy who sold me my policy, told me I was covered for this. I don't care what the salesman told you. We're the insurance arm of this organization, and we're telling you you're not covered. Where we have enormous flexibility at Right to Bear is we make all those decisions. And I can tell you, I'm very proud to tell both of you this. We've only denied 2 claims in our total existence of all the claims we've had in the first 4 or 5 years, which is a blessing. We find a way to try to defend and protect our members, and they know that through the relationship that we establish with them. But I can tell you that the 2 we've denied were ones where our member was not in a self-defense posture. They were in a posture of being the instigator. And
Oh, well, right. I was just going to ask, but I mean, that's kind of obvious. You start the fight and then you're looking to play the card of the victim.
No.
Yeah, and that happens. God bless them. It does happen. Testosterone sometimes is a tough thing to overcome. And, a lot of our, national claims matters involve brandishing a gun in road rage. Guys, that's not a good place to be. And it makes it tough. Now, if you truly are in a self-defense posture because you've been shot at or that kind of thing, we understand, and we're going to defend you. It's the ones who instigate by brake checking folks and then getting out and pointing a gun at them. You can't do that.
Oh, yeah, dumb.
Yeah.
So, what are the elements of a comprehensive self-defense policy? I mean, I imagine that a lot of people aren't, laziness, lack of attention span. They don't understand the legalese. They don't read the fine print. What constitutes a comprehensive policy, and maybe the tripwires or the traps that people should look for when considering who to go with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, again, I want to share my heart with you. We have always said, if Right to Bear is not the carrier for you, I pray you'll go and get protection from somebody. And I couldn't say that any more loud and clear, because I want true American patriots that stand for the Second Amendment to be protected. Now, when I tell you about value, if you look on a comparison chart right now with some of the protections we have, I will tell you that a couple that come to mind are counseling protection. A lot of our competitors don't offer that. But, when there's a true self-defense incident, oftentimes there's trauma and PTSD involved after that event. We actually cover up to, 40 counseling sessions for our members for the PTSD or trauma they may be experiencing. And let me tell you, we've had to offer that protection quite often to members who were struggling. And we've had members call me personally and say, without that protection, I wouldn't have made it. So I can tell you that that's a vital part of what we do. I can tell you that bail bond coverage is something that I would point out that a lot of people say, well, I just don't need it. Well, folks, let me tell you, not everybody sitting around the house has got $10,000 cash accessible to be able to call a bail bondsman and bail themselves out, or have a family member bail themselves out in the event that they're wrongfully charged. And bail bond coverage is $35 a year. Mm-hmm. And we pay up to, $1 million bond, 10%, that would be $100,000 bond. So.
I think everyone trains to the point where the gun goes off, or they've trained to the point where they've hit the punching bag, or, depending on what style of defense you're training to. But they don't train for what happens immediately thereafter. Maybe some people have taken some medical training and can deal with the immediate aftermath. But, once the 911 call, goes through, and there's responding officers, what should people do and what should people not do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And obviously, there are going to be differing opinions about, what positive actions you take. But I can tell you from firsthand perspective and some of the training that we've done and offer nationally. And then some of the fine instructors that represent our company nationwide. We have over 3,000 partners nationwide already at Right to Bear in 4 short years. And I can tell you, most of them follow the same protocol. And that is when you dial 911, one of the things you don't realize is that call is already being recorded. So anything you say can be used in court. So we advise that you say, hey, my name is, give your name, your address. Usually they already have it. What's your emergency? I've been involved in a self-defense incident where I had to use my firearm. Please send police and emergency right away. And we believe the best solution is to hang the phone up.
I would agree, and people don't realize that even if the operator or the 911 operator puts you on hold, you're still being recorded.
Yeah, and you know what, guys? The 911 operator is likely to call back. In 90% of the cases, they're going to actually call back.
Right.
We advise not to answer the phone.
Don't take the call.
Yeah,
Right.
and then we advise that you unload your firearm, place it in a safe place, and the minute that you meet police or law enforcement, when they arrive, you immediately tell them you were involved in a self-defense incident. You let them know that you have an unloaded firearm and where that firearm is. But during the process of them, acting to try and get to you, and we all know this, there's no secret that in a lot of places in the country, folks, 911 response times used to be below 5 minutes. Anybody want to guess what they are in certain rural cases and a lot of rural cases?
Okay, over 30 minutes, I would bet.
Oh, well over 30 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
Well over 30 minutes. So, owning the firearm and standing your ground is a must now. When when somebody's trying to beat your door down, a drug addict or an intruder, you can't wait. You can't trust on our heroes in blue because they're spread thin, and they truly are our heroes. But let me say this, guys: the second call you need to make is to your legal defense provider. If that's Right to Bear, you call our hotline. You're not going to get placed on hold, and you're not going to sit and wait for 30 minutes for an attorney to call you back. A live attorney, true Second Amendment patriot's going to answer the phone, even if it's 2 a.m. on Christmas morning. And that's where our value difference stands.
Absolutely, and every word you say is part of the attorney-client protection at that moment in time. It is not discoverable. Whereas some, like for example, insurance-based organizations, you call up and you're talking to an operator at the insurance company, and guess what? Everything you say to that operator, oh, I didn't mean to shoot him, oh, something, whatever you say, that's all being recorded on their side, and guess what? It's discoverable and can be used against you when you go to court. But the things you say to Right to Bear, since it is an attorney, you get the attorney-client privilege right there. Nothing that you say at that moment on that conversation to your attorney is discoverable.
So what would then a person not want to say to responding officers? And as a follow-up to that, like what are the mistakes that can make you sort of hit your forehead and go, oh, I wish they hadn't done that. What do you see that you then have to wiggle people out of?
Well, obviously, Craig, our members are well advised on getting our attorney on the line immediately, and that attorney is going to provide immediate representation. So they're going to stay on the line when law enforcement arrives, even if it's 30 minutes later, God bless them. They're going to become the intermediary of counsel right then and there for our member. So our attorney first is going to advise, don't say a word. Let me do the talking for you. I will actually talk to them. I will FaceTime them. I will do whatever I need to do to provide representation immediately.
Right. Now Craig and I have both taken classes either with or for Massad Ayoob, who's famous in the firearms space.
Yes.
And he's a police officer, been going back 40 years, been writing in the journals for 40 years. And his take is slightly different on it. And I definitely agree with certain things that he says, but I tend to go much more with say nothing. But some of the things he says, and I'll let you this is a data point. This is my opinion, nothing more, or his opinion. is police officer, you identify yourself, you give a thing. All you're going to want to do is point out, particularly if there are other people around, you can point out to the officer and say, that person, and that person saw what was happening. So you point them out, and also anything that the officer may not see. His gun is laying on the ground over there. The knife is sitting over there, or whatever.
Relevant evidence.
Yeah, what the evidence is and who saw it, and then pretty much shut up because things move around. Masada, you talked about the things where guns, which were on your front lawn, somehow by the time they come around to take pictures, have been kicked out into the center of the street, where the person said, "Oh no, I was in the center of the street when he shot me." As you can see from the picture, the gun's out in the center of the street. No, the gun was on my front lawn or whatever when it happened. And also, shell casings move. Shell casings disappear. They get stuck in people's boots, the Vibram soles of their boots and stuff. So shell casings disappear. They get kicked into, storm drains. Things happen. So point out what you can point out, and then be quiet.
Yeah.
And your attorney, you can tell the officer, I am willing to make a full statement after I speak to my attorney. After.
Ken and Craig, Masada Ayou is a great patriot. I have great admiration for him and his advice, and I certainly. But I will tell you that we live in a different world this day and time, and I will say that the less you say and the quicker you have counsel that represents you, the better off you are. Hey, I want to ask you both a question that goes along with this conversation, and I think you'll find this interesting. When one of our heroes in blue is involved in an actual firearm discharge or a shooting, what happens to that officer? What happens for the next 2 days with that officer?
I know the answer to that.
Well, they're put on administrative leave. And their firearm is taken away from them. It's evidence,
and they're not and they don't have to make a statement until they come off that administrative
for
leave.
3 days or
whatever the department policy is.
That's correct, guys. Yeah. So they're not required to make a statement so that they can go back, take 2 days to literally get over the shock and awe, to really think about what happened, to get their thoughts together, and then present it to their superiors. Why shouldn't we be given that same advantage? But we're not. So, Ken, when I tell you that you're better off to have counsel on the phone with you, you're not going to get that 2 days like our heroes in blue.
Look, dear listeners, what Frank just said, there is another angle to this. You absolutely can take days to answer that question and think about what happened, except you'll be sitting in jail doing it. You won't be at home. But if you want to sit in county jail before you make a statement, you do have that right.
Yeah.
You may not like the idea.
It may be your best decision. But the thing is,
no, it's not your best decision. Your best decision is to hire, Right to Bear or another company that you have personally vetted. I would say that's way down the list of sitting in jail with
quiet.
Yeah. So, are there cases where that you've made? I think the answer is obviously yes. That you've made a difference in a person's future. What I'm getting to is, why is this a good value to spend whatever money?
Craig, I really appreciate you asking that, because I wanted to take just a kind of a few moments and share our true value difference at Right to Bear, because I think it's important. And this is not an advertisement for Right to Bear. I want you to see truly who we are. What truly separates us from our great competitors in the marketplace is our culture of caring. We are a faith-based organization. We don't hide that. In fact, one of our largest revenue streams in our company is protecting house of worship security forces around the country, which are in large need right now. As you know, there's probably a private school or house of worship incident nationally almost every day in our country. They need it the worst. But let me just share with you what our value difference is. When our members are in a self-defense incident and they call our attorney hotline, I've already shared with you, they're going to get a live attorney that answers that call. Once our attorneys spend, sometimes it can take hours, wrapping their arms around the case, making sure that they understand the details, they pick up the phone and call me. That's when we go into our call to action plan. That's when our faith shines. I personally, as president of the company, reach out to every member. The first thing we do is offer to pray for them. I've never had one soul say, "Hey, don't pray for me." Let me tell you, when you're in the trenches, you want all the support you can get. The second thing we do is remind them that they've got counseling paid for the PTSD and trauma they may be experiencing. We can go ahead and set them up with a licensed professional in their area to provide them some support in that realm. And then the third thing we do is I personally set up a call calendar with them. And sometimes that call calendar may look like us speaking every other day. Sometimes it's weekly and sometimes it's every few weeks, but I can tell you that I just reach out to them. I let them know that we're in the trenches with them. This is not some kind of transactional deal that they're going through. It's a relationship deal. That's why we excel. That's why our culture is so much better than what's offered otherwise in America right now. Let me give you an example. I gave you the case of the mother that protected her daughter from a brutal monster and was charged. We're currently defending her right now. That was 3 weeks ago. I've spoken with her 9 times.
Mm,
Nine
Very good.
times.
that's a lot.
Our partner in Maryland that was charged with murder, he and I became great prayer partners. Guys, it's a mission. It's a ministry. And let me tell you, our number one goal is to live above the expectations of those we serve, and we do it every day, one member at a time.
So you mentioned churches.
Yeah.
So that I can see a little bit of a legal entanglement here. A lot of places have preclusions against firearms on or near schools, and a lot of churches have schools associated with them on the same property. What happens in that case when you have now brought a firearm into that environment and it happens to be therefore a precluded item because of the proximity to the school?
Well, as you both are very aware, most states are becoming more reasonable and using, what I call, solid logic to realize that houses of worship and private schools need armed security in the worst way because of the incidents that have happened. I mean, we just had a massive incident just months ago in Michigan where an intruder actually tried to drive a vehicle into the school and was
Yes.
prepared to shoot the school. Had that school not had an armed guard with training, there's no telling what would have happened, guys. So I can tell you that states are becoming more reasonable and logical in making sure that their perimeter, their property is well protected. And in that case, they're also offering great deals of immunity. Now, I will tell you, we've had a case where we protected a combat Marine decorated that was retired up in Idaho, well documented, where he defended a very large church in a youth event with a young man that actually brought charges against him because he wouldn't adhere to any commands, and our individual had to stop him using his right arm, and the DA decided to bring charges against our individual. Finally, after lots of persuasion, lots of national press, I'll say, the DA decided to drop the charges. But I can tell you that in most cases, in a lot of states, there's immunity for self-defense in houses of worship, and most states are coming around to that thought.
You mentioned that states are becoming a little bit more logical maybe in their thinking, but I think maybe people are becoming less logical in some of their thinking because they'll post things that are provocative online. They'll show imagery that will get them in trouble. I actually know someone that this actually happened, and that their associations outside the organization resulted in a negative consequence. Maybe they put things on their guns, like, let's say, the plate on the back of a Glock slide that may have an image on it that is provocative or damning, to the average person who's uninitiated in firearms. How serious are those things that that you make publicly available, let's say?
And and before you answer that question, I mean, we talk about Glocks. I have several Glocks, and on my Glocks, I have there's a Glock plug that plugs up that little space behind the hand grip, and I've got a little plug there, and I always have mine laser engraved, and mine is always John 15:13. It's a well-known biblical verse. It reads, "Greater love hath no man than this, to lay down his life for one's friends." That's on my pistol. So if that is ever used on something, that's going to be something that they're going to read in court, I would assume.
Yes. Yes, there's no doubt that anything involving a firearm now has become more and more politicized, guys. I hate the term, and guys, forgive me, but I hate the term gun violence. There's no such thing as gun violence.
Exactly.
Gun violence doesn't exist. It's people violence. It's culture violence. It's mental illness. It's not gun violence. A gun has never sat on a table and fired on its own. So these politicians, these
We could make jokes about certain guns, but we won't.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And Ken, I also own a number of Glocks, a number of Smith and Wessons, SIGs. I mean, I'm an avid sportsman, but I can tell you right now that those messages are going to follow you wherever you go, including your social media. You know that. But
Yeah.
again, it's so politicized now, and these activists, not judiciaries, are going to find a way to use them just to make a point.
So, what does the typical self-defense case cost your firm? And I'm assuming that you have done, I don't know how many you've done. And by the way, disclaimer, I actually meant to mention this up front. Okay. Part of our rules of engagement, dear listeners, are that we have a requirement that we have vetted the product or service personally, Ken and I, before we will put it on our show, because being on our show is kind of a de facto endorsement. As was the case 16 months ago, neither Ken or I have required the legal services of Right to Bear or any other company, and I don't intend to go out and get into an incident in order to vet them to see, gee, they did a good job, or you know what, maybe they weren't a very good choice. And now I have 25 years to think about that. So Ken, I don't think you've done that either.
No.
But we have not done that vetting. But so I don't know how many cases, Frank, you guys have covered, but I think you've probably done enough to have a sense for what they typically cost.
We have, and let me tell you guys that again, depending on the region of the country, it can differ in a large way. Shockingly, for example, Atlanta is an area right now where just to retain a criminal attorney, most of them want $25K out of the gate, and they want it up front. We've had some parts of the country where they'll take 10 because they believe they can try the case because it's a minor situation involving a member who had to brandish their gun because they felt there was definite danger. But yet they were charged for brandishing the gun. We're still defending them. And those are minor. Sometimes we can get those done around the country for between 7,500 and 10. But that's the minimum. But let's be real, guys. If it gets to a murder trial, you're easily six figures before you blink, because I need to make you two aware. We have a team of the very best expert witnesses in the country, and we are so proud to bring them in for cases that are needed. We have private investigation teams that we utilize, and I can promise you they're the very best, and they work to promote true Second Amendment, positive vibes on the stands. And again, that's a difference maker to certain, juries around the country. And so it can get quite expensive, but anytime you've got a serious matter, a number of felonies, it can get to a six-figure situation. I mean, very quickly.
So how do you vet across the 49 states that you cover, or maybe it's 48, I guess, how do you vet those participating attorneys in those localities?
Yeah, great question. In fact, I spoke with two brand new attorneys on our team this week, one in Lansing, Michigan, one in New Hampshire. Very proud to have those new members on our team, which now totals about 200 true Second Amendment attorneys. They first have to be a patriot. Second, they need to believe in the Second Amendment and the ability for an individual to stand their ground. Otherwise, they just wouldn't qualify for us. And then thirdly, we love to see persons of faith. It doesn't always work out that way, but certainly we want qualified attorneys. We don't want people who've not seen the inside of a courtroom but once or twice. We want someone that's tried at least 100 cases and can be qualified to take care of our members. And so that's another promise that we give to our members to make sure they have the best and the brightest.
And then among your membership levels, I mean, do you have different membership levels? You mentioned a family plan earlier, and what are those, briefly, what are the differences between those?
Yeah, we obviously have a family plan. We obviously have a discounted plan for the security teams for houses of worship. We have a plan for our Heroes in Blue, and those are discounted plans. And then we have individual plans. The family plan, we obviously cover everyone in the household and a child up to age 18. But I will tell you guys that all of our pricing right now, if you look at it, is just enormously close and competitive in those realms. And they all can be found at www.protectwithbear.com. That's www.protectwithbear.com.
What happens? So you mentioned the attorneys that you vet, but let's just say that that person doesn't resonate with the client. Can the client say, I really just don't like this guy. Can you find me somebody else?
Man, what a great question. It's like it's almost like I'm feeding you the questions and you're feeding them back to me. But that didn't happen, guys. I can assure you. I told you that any question was welcome and nothing was off limits. One of the significant additional advantages to Right to Bear is you can choose your own attorney within reason. And guys, we would be foolish not to let our member not have the ability to choose their own attorney. Let me give you an example. I use the term Gurdon, Arkansas a lot. Great little small town in Arkansas. But let's just say you're in Gurdon, Arkansas. You have a self-defense incident and your brother-in-law is the DA in Gurdon, Arkansas. Who are we going to want to hire? One of our Second Amendment guys, or let you use your brother-in-law? I mean,
No.
we'd be foolish not to let our members hire the very best and brightest. Now, some of our competitors, you're going to be stuck with them. You're going to have to use their legal team. So we don't play that game. We want what's best for our members, guys. And I've said that how many times on this call? Quite a few. And I apologize for the redundancies.
No, that's fine, because sometimes you need to be redundant to actually cement a point
Yeah.
in people's mind. Okay, then looking at the other side of the coin, what don't you cover? I mean, explicitly. Things
Yeah,
that you are outside coverage. I mean, you mentioned it earlier that if you're the aggressor and then you're trying to flip it to self-defense thing, maybe that's not going to work out too well.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you've committed a true crime, and I'm not talking about something that you were charged with a true self-defense, so we have a lot of cases we represent, but I'm talking about committing a true crime like a burglary or that kind of thing. We're not going to cover you, obviously. And then second of all, we're not going to cover you if you're the instigator of the matter. In other words, I've told you already that if testosterone gets the best of you and you feel like you've got to use your weapon when you're not in a self-defense posture, we're not going to cover you. And then the only other thing right now that we don't offer from a coverage perspective that some of our competitors and they're great competitors offer is the civil damages protection.
Right.
Again, guys, we couldn't find case precedents, but
Yeah.
we are going to come out of the gate with that coverage because we just have some members that say, you know what, I still need it for peace of mind.
They just want, well, and sure, and why
respect
not?
it.
It doesn't
Or
have to be an expensive component
That's right.
to the policy. What about recoupment clauses?
We don't have a recoupment clause, but as you know, Craig, some of our competitors do. And
Yeah.
for an explanation regarding recoupment clause, if you are charged and your carrier goes to defend you and determines that you are rendered a verdict of guilty for a true crime, they can recoup all of their legal fees back to the insurance carrier. We don't do recoupment fees.
Just finishing out here, and this has been a great discussion. And you know what?
Yeah.
I was, as the host and the co-host, there's always a little bit of concern about, I don't really want to repeat the same show. But this show has been not only super educational, I think
I've learned a lot. Yeah.
It's been very refreshing to have this kind of a conversation since you and I have talked now for a couple years about having this show. We finally got around to it. You got any? I mean, maybe in this space, this is almost an inappropriate question, but do you have any, funny or entertaining stories that are just, maybe not going too specific, but that you can share that, again, maybe this isn't an area that carries a great deal of humor with it.
Well, there's always the case where, we've got an individual that attended a class session from one of our great facility partners around the country, or one of our great instructor partners around the country, and they decide not to sign up. And then the very following week, they're involved in a self-defense incident. And instead of calling 911, they call the Right to Bear hotline and try to sign up before they call 911. So it just doesn't work that way, but it's still nonetheless quite comical that it happens quite often. Now, I will tell you, I've prayed with a number of those folks and helped them realize, listen, we'll cover you after this event, but we can't cover you for prior acts. So, but
Exactly.
that to me is quite comical.
So you mentioned education. You guys do some outreach and things like that. And by the way, anything that you want to promote as we close out here, whether it be YouTube channel or your website or anything that you want to, I mean, you're here to self-promote. This is a business, and that's fine. I expect that. But what do you want to say to our listeners about how to follow up if they're interested, and other things they can learn from, you and your team?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say what a blessing it is to have the opportunity to share with you, Craig, and to connect with you, Ken. Craig, you and I have met out at SHOT Show a number of years and had the opportunity to say hello, and it's such a blessing. If I had to leave your audience with any thought, I would say, and you've heard me say this, get protection, whether it's with Right to Bear or some of our great competitors. Go get protection, because your home and your umbrella are not going to cover it. But if you're going to get protection, evaluated on the basis of true value. I want to close you with one example. We had a recent claim where we have an individual that his neighbor was getting robbed. And his neighbor had just called 911. Police are on the way, but they're in a rural setting. So he calls his neighbor and says, hey, man, I'm getting robbed. Can you go to my house? Well, his house was a couple hundred yards across the field from his residence. So he goes barreling out with his firearm. And when he gets outside of his home, he hears a shot. Thinking that it's the robbers, he shoots back. Just to fire a warning shot.
Oh boy.
Just to fire a warning shot. Come to find out, it was his neighbor who had come out firing, because they were leaving the premises and stealing a great deal of expensive lawn equipment. Well, guess who called 911 after that? The robbers.
Oh God. Hey listeners, how many problems there was more than one. How many legal problems did you just hear Frank articulate?
Yeah, but guess who gets charged, guys?
Yeah.
For firing a warning shot.
Yeah.
I remember when he's defending against robbers, guys. So we've held that member's hand, but I want to go a step further. We literally had one of our great attorneys get in the car and drive 3 hours to meet a district attorney the minute they showed up at the office the next day after the incident, to explain further why our member shouldn't be charged in this matter. That's rare, folks. And it doesn't happen like you think it happens in our country. And I can tell you that we believe we have the best and the brightest, and they understand our mission is to live above the expectations every day of our members. And like I told you earlier, we do it through a culture of faith and service, and that's never going to change at Right to Bear. We're proud to pray with our members, to be a source of light, and to make sure they understand that we're relational and not transactional. So thank you for letting me share that.
That was probably the best closer I've ever had
Thanks.
from a guest.
From the heart.
That was
From the heart.
outstanding. So,
Thanks.
okay, well, thanks very much, Mr. Frank Cannon from Right to Bear. And one more time, your website, sir.
Is www.protectwithbear.com. www.protectwithbear.com. We look forward to serving you one day. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate your time. Okay, today we've had an opportunity to speak to Frank Cannon at Right to Bear. We've had some really wonderful discussions. I've been corrected on a few things, learned a few things, but we really had a great opportunity to speak and to learn some more. So once again, to take home from all of this discussion, from my perspective anyway, and it's my opinion, is that if you carry a firearm for self-defense, you need to have coverage from one of these companies, and Right to Bear appears to be a very, very good one. So with that, Craig, you got a couple of comments?
These shows, they surprise me every time because I always get something out of the show that I didn't personally know. And I'm almost in every single case so impressed with the quality of the guests that we get and how enjoyable the conversation is, because a couple of them, honestly, you kind of look at it and go, well, we're doing a duty to the listener by having this guest because I think it's information, but I don't really expect to enjoy the conversation, and this was thoroughly enjoyable, and honestly pretty much they all are. There's always something new to learn, and that's why we keep producing the show, right?
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Okay. Next show, don't quite know who the guest is going to be yet. There's a lot of irons in the fire right now, waiting to see what that's going to be. It'll be a few weeks, as you heard me mention up front. I have some travel coming up for work. So that's going to put a little delay, actually, that was the reason that this show's been a little bit delayed. So apologies for not keeping on a regular drumbeat. And do not forget that now we are also on carbontv.com. If you're interested in finding us there, we're trickling out the shows at the rate of one per week from the historical catalog there. And we are always on Mondays on the Outdoor Call radio app. So you can also find us there as well. And of course, at frugalfirearmspodcast.com, you can reach out to us at frugalfirearmspodcast@gmail.com if you have questions, comments, or show participation ideas. So I think that's all I got today. How about you, Ken? We're all done?
We're all done. Appreciate your time.
All right. Good day, folks. Bye-bye. Did he vanish again?
Yeah.
Wow. See? Man, we're going to have to start getting sponsorships so he can afford a better connection. What the heck?